to talk about timeline jumping and something that happened to me last night. And before we get into this story, I'm just going to say this is going to be like a little bit triggering, maybe. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of SA stuff that happened to me when I was younger. Not going into like details or anything, but it's just like pertinent to this story and what I'm going to do moving forward in my line of work, which I'm already doing some things, but we'll get into it. Okay. So this morning at like 6 o'clock, I wake up and like I, discombobulate or whatever, and I go to the bathroom and then I come back and lay down. And then I'm like asleep, I guess. And sometimes you are lucid dreaming, and then sometimes you are actual astral traveling. And I try not to astral travel while I am sleeping. Like I have said over to my energy field numerous times, like we don't do that because it uses up all my magic on the 3D plane, and I never get rested enough to like be mindful during the day. And so I kind of like cut that off. But this was a level up moment that I needed to go through for my own sovereignty and divinity and for my work. And so I fall back asleep, and then all of a sudden I'm in these people's like front yard, and it's like two gentlemen. Like I know them, but I don't, it's from somewhere else. Okay, hold on, I need to drink some water before we get deeper into this. Okay, so these two gentlemen, and I'm with them in their car, and they're like, hey, come inside. And so I was like, okay. And then something happened, and we were hearing like gunshots or something off in the background, and then one of them was like, oh no, we're not dealing with that. And it was like this whole thing, and I was like hiding on the other side of this car, and like this group of people like drove up, and actually it was like multiple groups of people, and they're like, hey, we're coming inside your house. And these two guys were like, okay. And so they come in the house, and they're throwing like this big giant party. However, these people are like not on the up and up. Okay, like these people that came, and they're doing some like deviant behavior type of stuff, and they found me like behind the car, and they were like, you have to come inside the house. And so I'm in there, and I'm not really like talking to anybody, like I'm trying to just mind my own business and kind of like observing and watching what is happening, and people are like trying to talk to me, and I'm kind of just deflecting with my energy field. And then like some stuff happened, and I sat on the couch, and somebody I know like from this plane was there. Like she was my guardian angel in that instance, because I just started like crying my eyes out because I was like so scared in there that something was going to happen to me or happen to some of the other people that were in there, because the way that the situation was set up, it was almost like there was like a boss, and they had all these like people that like follow them around and stuff, but there were some like girls there that were also like part of the whatever it was, but they were there because they had been like brainwashed or whatever. Not brainwashed, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so I'm sitting on the couch, and somebody hands me like a computer tablet, and it's like the boss person that's talking to me, and he starts like telling me all these things that I need to do. And I was like super scared at first, and I was like, okay, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to compromise my value system, and you're not going to tell me what to do. And then this other person there was like, you need to do what he says, otherwise like blank 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 is going to happen. And I was like, he can either come and speak to me correctly, or we're going to have a very different conversation. Like, I don't know what that switch was, but all of a sudden I started seeing like Kali. If y'all know who that is, like the goddess Kali, she's over like oppression and like ripping things up at the root that are not justice wise. And I was like looking at her, and I was talking to her, and all of a sudden I like took on her energy, which is really interesting because I used to channel Kali. I don't do that as much anymore. And spirit guides are all reflections of self anyway. It's like a different version of you. And all of a sudden I just like started feeling her energy, and then all of a sudden we were outside, like me and all the group of people, and I turned into like this huge like giant, and I picked this person up with my fingers, and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you can't treat people like this, right? And then something inside of me was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to respond back with like anger and resentment like on that level, right? And so then we like rewound time almost, and I was back in the house, and I was standing there, and I like psychically connected with all of the, like the oppressive people in there, and I was looking at them like through Kali's eyes, and I was like, let me tell you something. If you ever treat somebody like this again, I will know. I will be aware. and we will have a different conversation. Okay? And all of them were like, how can you hear me? Like, how can you be up in here? And I was like, I will know. Okay? And then I left, and then some like other stuff happened. And then I woke up, like actually woke up, and I started like crying my eyes out, because I have had this like super irrational fear of men all of my life, and it's not like really irrational. I thought it was because I had been in like an abusive relationship for like a long time. But it was always, it wasn't just that. It was like something that was like deeper rooted in. And I found out like years later into my life that I had been a victim of SA when I was a very small child. And I had a lot of repressed memories of that. And it came forward. And I've been like diligently working on helping her heal, which also healed my relationship with like men. Because then I realized like what had happened. You know what I mean? And just and we all face like oppression from like society and the patriarchy. Like there's a lot of different layers to that as well, and like social media and just day-to-day interactions. And I woke up and I was just crying my eyes out, and I said, I don't ever want anyone to feel that way again. Like I don't ever want anyone to feel oppressed and threatened and like they're boxed in and they have no power. And so I'm going to try not to cry right now, because I know how that feels. And I do a lot of work with people's inner children. Like that's a big foundational framework that I do, because most of our behavioral patterns and triggers and trauma and PTSD and all this stuff all spawns back to childhood. So it's a big deal to me. I'm like, everything goes back to that, okay? And I love taking care of people's inner children, because they're innocent little beings, and they're so magical and creative and imaginative, and I just want them to feel safe and secure and empowered, and like they can live out their best dreams, and know they're capable of anything that they want to do. And if we can just break them free from those like paradigms and, you know, all those things. So my realization that I had was, moving forward, I am always going to do what's in best for that person's inner child when we are doing sessions together. Like I'm going to directly speak, because when I've been doing sessions with people and when we go in and talk to their inner children, I always tell them that my higher self is a guardian of all the inner children that I ever work with, and they can always call on her if they ever need anything. But I was like, no, I'm going to step more into that role here. Okay. Being the guardian of the inner children and just making sure that they are broken free of those paradigms. And it's just a filter lens that I put on, if that makes sense, upon waking up. And I was like, this is my mission here. And I've always loved working with children anyway, like outside of like spirituality. Like I was a program manager for like underprivileged youth, underserved youth, and that was just like a wonderful time, because even in that I was helping kids like break out of these like fear paradigms and like societal paradigms and things. So it was very interesting. It was a very interesting experience. And at first I thought it was a dream, and I was like, no, I was actually on a different timeline, and I was re-encoding my archetype through that experience. Like I had to go through that challenge, because I wouldn't have handled it the same way like years ago. I would have been so scared and like meek and like disempowered and like just gotten along to like get along and like get out, right? But this time I was like, no. Okay, I was kind of trepidatious about sharing this, because I was like, oh, this is going to sound a little kooky. I was like, who cares? If it helps somebody else, that's what I want. Like, I literally don't care about the perceivability of it. And it's almost like my soul was like, we have to get on and share this message. We cannot do anything else today. And I was feeling kind of like blocked up, like my brain was kind of foggy, and they were like, you got to come on and share this message. So let me know if it resonated with you. If you have any questions or any thoughts, I would love to hear them as well in the comments.